Do you miss the structure of a 9-to-5 job? Best first date story? Well, why don't you live in LA? What's your secret to consistency of making videos? Do you sometimes feel like going back to work? Any travel vlogs coming up? What is your skincare routine? Do you ever find yourself getting bored after quitting your job? Hello, this is Taylor. Welcome to another spicy Q&A. First one, as always, whenever I post a question box, one of the main themes that I get questions about is, do you miss your old job? Do you miss the structure of a 9-to-5? More of a 9-to-9, but we'll get into that. Do you sometimes feel like going back to work? Do you find yourself getting bored sometimes after quitting your job? So I'm gonna just talk about this a little bit, and in doing so, it will address all of these. So I get asked this question a lot from people in my real life as well, whether it's friends, family, or a stranger who I'm meeting for the first time, and this is a lot of the time their first follow-up question once they find out what I do for work. So to answer the question, and then we'll dive into more details, to me, nothing makes me feel more fulfilled and wealthier, not even money, than the freedom that I have each and every day to decide for myself what to do with my time. This is the type of structure where I thrive, where I have a blank canvas and I have to figure it out for myself. And if I don't figure it out, I'll go broke. So it's high risk, high reward, but I would bet my bottom dollar that I will never again have it any other way. So that's a pretty definitive answer. Like I said, I'll meet other entrepreneurs and they're like, hell yeah, that's how I feel too. And then I have lots of friends in the corporate world who are like, that level of ambiguity each day just kind of makes me feel anxious, and I really, really crave that structure that the 9-to-5 or the corporate job gives them, which makes a lot of sense, by the way. This is kind of an important note. I need structure too, very much so. I just make it for myself. And honestly, I could be even more rigorous about this because I think that counterintuitively, structure and having good habits is actually what sets us free, because it removes the guesswork out of the thousands of micro decisions that each of us have to make every single day. All these little things that you don't even realize are taking up mental capacity every day. I think having good structure and good habits helps automate those things. So to really answer your question, no, I do not miss the structure of the 9-to-5 in the slightest. And again, consulting really is a 9-to-9, not a 9-to-5. And I don't just say that to signal, I used to work so much. I actually think it's just important context to highlight how much time I actually got back. There are parts of the job that I do miss, to be clear, but the structure and someone else / a corporation deciding for me what I do with a majority of my waking hours is not one of the things that I miss. Also, a huge piece here is that I did not really enjoy the work that I was doing most of the time. If I did, this would be a very different story. Yeah, and then do I find myself getting bored after quitting my job? Not at all. To be clear, I still work a lot, probably more than you might think, but it's on things I want to work on, so it doesn't feel like work. And no, I don't get bored. I also live in New York City, where it's kind of impossible to get bored. Bottom line, as far as I see it, I was lucky enough to buy back my time and freedom to work on things that I actually want to work on at a young age, which is one of my favorite parts of my life. Fun one, we have best first date story, most memorable first date story. So one that comes to mind took place in Venice Beach, California, when I was at home at some point, at a bar called Rooster Fish. It is on Abbot Kinney Boulevard. It's a really cool, big bar, pretty dark, kind of funky on the inside. If you guys know it or have been, let me know in the comments. He and I had a few each of one of my favorite cocktails, Pisco Sour, which I came to love after traveling to Chile, where they take their Pisco Sours very seriously. And at one point during the date, I reached up and felt that one of my earrings was missing, and they were my favorite earrings, so I freaked out just a little bit. But he shamelessly helped me search the entire floor of this big, dark bar with our iPhone flashlights, like every square inch of it. Did not find the earring, so eventually just let it go. And after that, we ended up walking up and down Abbot Kinney Boulevard, and everything in LA closes pretty early, so we weren't going anywhere. Everything was closed. We were walking just to walk and like dying laughing about the dumbest shit. It was a lot of fun. It was like an 8-hour date. Anyways, I found my earring the next day on my couch at home, which is where it fell out before I even went on the date. What's your secret to consistency of making videos? So for starters, I'm not that consistent. I care multitudes more about putting out a high quality video that I'm proud of than putting out some video every single week at the same time. I just refuse to do that, even though I know if it's good enough, the algorithm would probably reward me for it, but I can't bring myself to spend less time on the editing or to not get the B-roll to make a video look better. I just care a lot about the details, and I also really, really optimize for work-life balance. So I probably could be doing even more, but I want to have fun and also have a social life and all these things. Over the last 4 years, I still taking all this into account, have not taken longer than 45 days, I think it is, without posting a video. So I'm kind of consistent. But my level of consistency, I think, comes down to a couple things. The first is to really enjoy the process of making a video. And if you truly love it, I think you'll find your way back to it, even after taking a couple weeks off, or if you're in a creative rut, you know, stepping away for a little bit is good. But if you really, really love it, I think you'll find your way back to it. Second thing is regularly engaging in practices that help me feel creatively motivated. Things like reading, watching people who I admire on YouTube, talking with friends who I admire, spending time in nature, you know, lots of different things. And before too long, I inevitably feel inspired again and think of something else that I want to make. I don't know how actionable those things are. I think the latter is a bit more actionable. In terms of loving it, I think you just have to. I think that has to come naturally. Okay, next. A lot of people ask me about my skincare routine, which is very flattering because skincare is actually a huge passion of mine. Let me start by saying that a huge part of how our skin looks is due to genetics, our environment, our lifestyle, and not just the physical products that we put on our skin. Skincare products will only help you so much if you smoke a pack of cigs a day and only get 5 hours of sleep every night. And having a healthy lifestyle will only help you so much if you're genetically super prone to acne. So it's a combo of all of these things, really important to keep that in mind. But that being said, my skincare routine is as follows, and I will link products that I really enjoy using down below as I go through this. To start, I have very sensitive, extremely dry, eczema-prone skin, so I try to keep my routine actually quite simple and pay attention to the ingredients that I think react well on my skin and brands that work well for me. So I do use a lot of different products, but I try to keep the routine simple and the steps each night the same. I'll just like swap out different products for what I feel like my skin needs in that particular moment. So I'll start with my nighttime routine. You'll see why. It's a bit more involved, but even still, it's not that crazy. So I just wash my face at night in the shower using a gentle cleanser. Every now and then I will double cleanse, meaning I'll use an oil-based cleanser to like break down the makeup if I'm wearing a little extra that day, before going in with a water-based cleanser, which is what I use in the shower. But 97% of the time I'm just wearing mascara and like eyebrow pencil, and so the double cleanse is not necessary. So I'll just cleanse, wash my face in the shower. When I get out of the shower, I pat my face almost dry, but not completely dry, because if you actually leave it a little bit damp, that small amount of water that's still on your skin actually helps to absorb more of the products that you put on top of it. So I make it kind of damp, and then I'll go in with a serum. I rotate between a few different ones. Usually it's a niacinamide serum, a hyaluronic acid serum, or a retinol serum. Depends on the day. Just 3 drops, drop, drop, drop. Rub that in. And then a moisturizer on top of that. And that's it. Like I said, I'll swap out different moisturizers. I have ones that are a little bit thicker if it's kind of in winter time and I feel dry. I have ones that are really lightweight. But yeah, that's it. And 2 times a week, I will say I do use an AHA toner, which is alpha hydroxy acid. Sounds big and fancy. It's not. It's just a chemical exfoliant to help get rid of some of the dead skin cells and help with your skin tone, make it look more even, fine lines, stuff like that. So I do that twice a week. You don't want to do it every day. You do that before the serum. And not to get too in the weeds here, but if you have really dry, sensitive skin like I do, you should definitely use an AHA toner instead of a BHA toner, BHA being beta hydroxy acid, aka salicylic acid. And this is good if you're acne prone because it really penetrates the pores a lot deeper. But for sensitive, dry skin, AHA is more gentle on your skin. And then in the morning, sunscreen. That's it. I don't even wash my face in the morning because I just went to bed with all these great products that have soaked into my skin. No need to wash or like over cleanse. I would just get more dry. I just put the sunscreen on top, and I try to use moisturizing ones so I don't need to use extra moisturizer underneath or on top of the sunscreen. If I'm feeling really dry, I will, but yeah, 95% of the time, this is what I do. So to summarize, at nighttime, cleanser, and then twice a week I'll do the toner, serum, moisturizer, and then in the morning, sunscreen. That's it. Okay, next, I always get questions like LA versus New York City, and I've talked about it a lot, but I think I have a few more nuanced thoughts here. So why don't you live in LA or New York City? Which city is better for living a laid-back life? So I love LA. I was born and raised there. My parents and my dogs are there. It's beautiful weather, but in comparison to New York City, I don't feel pushed out of my comfort zone when I go to LA. I think New York forces you to be outside of your comfort zone for a lot of the time, and in turn, kind of forces you to live a lot of life in a compact period of time. The breadth of experiences that you will feel the ups and downs that you'll have from just a couple years of living here. It's hard to explain, but when you're here, you feel it. And this way of life is really not for everyone, but it absolutely is for me. At this stage in my life, I want to be growing. And when I go home to LA, I do feel that peace and calm that I think is really important to feel sometimes. But after about a week and a half there, I do start to feel myself getting kind of lazy, a little bit complacent, and I do think that comfort breeds complacency. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do think it's dependent on the person. Even for myself, I think I would eventually force myself to not be complacent no matter where I live, because that's the kind of person that I am. But New York doesn't give me that option to be complacent. And all of my friends are here in New York. It sucks because my parents and dogs are at home in LA and I miss them a lot, but I visit very often and we FaceTime like every single day. So it's all good. And which city is better for a laid back life? LA. Nothing about New York is laid back. Okay, next, this is a fun one. What do you do to make your days special? I was thinking about this the other day. I am very easy to please. I get or in the sense that I get really excited about small things. So my idea of a special day, and I know this because whenever I upload a video, so when it's an upload day for me, kind of a special occasion, I'll celebrate by going to my favorite coffee shop, getting a coffee, going to my bagel shop, and then consuming those two things in the park. In other words, my special day is how I normally live my life any day, which I think is a good place to be in life, I guess. But if it's a really special day, like my birthday, I'll get a baked good along with my coffee. I'll still get my bagel, no change there. And then for dinner, I'll put on a special occasion top, such as this one, and go to a nicer than usual place to eat. But you know, it's really about who I'm with and not what I'm doing, so that's how I do it. Ooh, this is fun. What's your favorite bad word? Not my favorite bad word, which is probably but an insult that I think is so freaking funny is to call someone a clown. It is so wildly dismissive, yet PG. I was dying laughing a couple nights ago at the prospect of calling someone unironically a clown. Is it just me that thinks that's really funny? I don't know. All right, next, lots of travel questions. So do you plan on traveling and making videos outside the US at some point? Maybe a vlog, travel vlogs, etc. So I get asked this a lot. And yes, I vow to travel more this year. I will say this past year, I've traveled a lot within the US and I just haven't really filmed it, but not a ton of international travel. I did go to London for a couple weeks.
Hey Taylor, what time is it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I wish I had a clock.
But I think that's it. And this sounds kind of like surprising because if you've been around for a while, you probably have seen some of my old travel vlogs. It used to be kind of a low-key pillar of my channel. And then, yeah, once I became a full-time YouTuber, as I've said before, it kind of felt like I owed it to myself / needed to stay in New York to really figure out a structure that worked well for my workday, because I had to figure that out for myself. Also, New York obviously is a big part of my videos, and so I had to be here for that. And all of my people are here in New York, and so a lot of the time there's just no place I'd rather be than right here. All that being said, New York will still be here. I do really want to do more international travel this year and make travel vlogs out of them too, as long as you guys promise to watch them. Because travel vlogs don't, at least on my channel, some have done really well and then others just kind of flop. People just want to see New York. So I'm like, okay, guess I won't film. Let me know if that's something you really want. We'll see. Okay, when was the last time you did something for the first time and what was it? So I actually have a very concrete answer for this, and it actually dawned on me right after I did that thing. Whoa, that was the first time I've done something for the first time in a long time. It was water skiing in Canada this past August with my cousins and my family. I stood up on my 5th try, I think, maybe my 6th try, and my form was absolutely terrible when I stood up, and then, you know, my legs were super far apart. And then as I stood up for longer, you know, it got a little bit better, and it was really, really fun. A very cool feeling. My mic died halfway through filming that video. Okay, do you ever burn out, and how do you deal with it? So yes, I have burned out. Not recently, but over the years, I've had a couple notable burnouts. More often than not though, it's more so episodes of lack of motivation, which usually comes from, you know, some of my videos not doing well, not feeling creatively inspired, feeling like I need to make some big change, or from lacking structure. That's a big one. When I don't create enough clear structure for myself, I feel kind of lost, and that ambiguity starts to get to me as well. So some things I do to deal with it. In the case of serious burnout, I take a couple days to myself to do absolutely nothing and to place no expectations on myself. But in the case of a lack of motivation, I try to think of the best next steps that I can take and continue to put myself in environments where I know I often feel inspired. And then the last thing I do is work out, because the saving grace to having a crappy day at work is that I know I can still turn my brain off and get in a good workout at the end of the day, which almost always helps with my mood and energy afterwards. And even if it doesn't, at least I took some move towards action, because something that's out of our control, in my opinion, you can't force yourself to feel motivated, but you can take action, which might make you feel inspired, which will then make you feel motivated. So that's how I deal with it. What is one thing you don't like about being full-time in content? So this isn't fully a con when thinking pros and cons, but it's kind of a con where someone might have a really clear separation between work and life, like where they close their laptop at night and then they're done working for the day. They're not thinking about work until the next day. I don't have that. My work is my life, largely. If I'm not editing, I'm thinking about video ideas. I'm thinking about the next video. I'm writing down ideas. I'm thinking about how I want my videos and my career to look over the next 2 years. I am always thinking about it constantly. I think over the last 4.5 years, I bet not an hour has gone by besides when I'm sleeping, and even then, where YouTube and my channel has not entered my mind, which, like I said, is not fully a bad thing. I do think in some ways it's pretty cool that my job is my biggest passion and my biggest hobby. But, you know, sometimes I do think a little bit more separation would probably be good for me, like when I'm trying to fall asleep at night. And finally, what are your businesses? So I'm very excited to answer this one because my business, probably obviously, the engine for everything is my channel. And then the revenue streams that come from that in order of magnitude are brand deals, ad revenue, and then a little bit of affiliate revenue. But I've kind of dropped hints before, well, more than hints, it's been full sections of a couple of videos of mine now, that I'm very keen on diversifying my revenue streams in the short term. So I'm excited to announce, it's hardly an announcement, but I've started some contract consulting over the last couple of weeks, and I'll tell you a lot more about it in my next video, which I'm planning to make kind of a working vlog where I show you guys what a work day in my life looks like and how I structure my day, especially now that I have this other thing on my plate and I kind of have to balance the two. But yeah, I'm excited to be adding something else on my plate and flexing some of those consulting muscles again, which, by the way, are the parts of the job that I do miss. So at the beginning of the video, when I said I do not miss the time and the structure of consulting, I do miss thinking about certain problems through the framework of how, you know, the end product could be valuable and actionable for clients, which actually has a lot of crossover with how I decide to make my videos, which is cool. And then for 2025, I have some other plans for revenue streams that ideally will take some of the pressure off of me taking a bunch of brand deals. To be clear, I love working with brands, a few in particular I really love working with, and I will not stop working with them. But to have my income a little bit less concentrated and lumpy in that one bucket, I think would probably be good for me. All right, guys, that is all I got. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this, if you found it helpful at all. It really, really helps. I usually try to remember to ask you guys, but basically when you thumbs up a video, it tells YouTube that you enjoyed it, and then YouTube's like, okay, I'll show this to some new people. And then that helps out my channel a lot. So really appreciate it. And follow me on Instagram to be part of these Q&As in the future. And until next time, turtle.